Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto Fell for Marika. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. There was a man in her chambers. Queen Marika the Eternal, vessel of the greater will and ruler of the lands between, opened her eyes, blinked the black spots from her vision ... and blinked again, just to make certain she wasn't dreaming. But lo and behold, the scene before her didn't change. All-seeing eyes beheld a pair of slim shoulders facing away from her, shoulders attached to a bare back, which was in turn connected to an equally naked chest, the latter of which even now rose and fell in peaceful slumber. She couldn't see his face, not with his back to her, but she beheld messy blonde hair and whiskered cheeks, the latter of which were dimpled in a small, sleepy smile. Why was there a naked man in her bed? Why was she so bloody blasted sore, for that matter? Confusion took wing in the God Queen's heart as she squinted at this stranger. She lifted the sheets just to make certain. Not a stitch of clothing on her body to be seen. She tilted her head to the right. At least Radigan wasn't anywhere to be seen. She had the feeling her other half would laugh at such a sight. She did not remember taking such a consort. Not after Godfrey had been hounded from the capital. This is perplexing. Sitting up slowly, she clutched the sheets to her chest and glanced about her chambers. Everything lay in tatters as far as her eye could see, bits of broken furniture and clothes scattered hereabouts. Nor had the room itself been spared. Scars pockmarked the walls and floor, as though something had been smashed into them repeatedly with great force and fervor. And if bits of tattered clothing just so happened to linger near those strange craters and dents ... well, judging by her soreness, Marika had a feeling she knew who had created them. Her gaze swept back to the stranger's back and sure enough, she saw the scratch marks etched into his spine. She felt no shame, of course. She was a queen. She could bed whomever she pleased. What did she and Radigan care for the morals of mortals? What she did experience now, however, was an awful headache. Try as she might, she couldn't recall what had led her to this moment. Such was not a strange occurrence for once such as she. Memories often escaped her, but even so, the question was a tiny thorn in her side, nagging at her without end. There had been a festival, hadn't there? Cause to celebrate something. A great victory. Wine had flowed freely through the capital as the people made merry. She'd let her hair down for the first time in eons. There had been a visitor, too. Marika recalled that much. Someone claiming to be from another world. He'd sought an audience with her. He'd asked her a question, hadn't he? How her head ached. Blue eyes came to mind now, narrow and intent. Realization dawned. On a whim she lay back down to gaze at his back ... in her hands. There was dried blood beneath her nails. In that at least, her suspicions were confirmed. They'd been rough with one another. Downright angry, even. But why? What reason would she possibly have to be angry with a man she'd never met? A flash of memory took her unawares. Drink, oh stranger. She'd offered him a chalice. To the defeat of the giants. To a new age. Make merry. Yes. There it was. It was all coming back to Marika now, but slowly, in bits and pieces. Such scorn he'd shown her words. How can you celebrate something like this? 'Tis a new epoch, an era of peace ... Come, drink. Tell me what ails thee. His lip turned up. Not my thing, lady. Find another drinking partner. Art thou afraid? She had cooed at him, mocked him, in her days. He tore the chalice from her grasp, brandishing it like a blade. Fine, give me that. I've got a bone to pick you. There had been argument, a fierce one. Wine flowed with words. Without warning, her so-called consort rolled over. Marika stiffened. His eyes were wide open, just as she remembered, face mere inches from her own. She could see now what she'd seen in him then, even in a drunken stupor. She saw it even more clearly now, despite the aching of her temples. His was a stern face, filled with determination and resolve, not unlike her last lord. A certain strength of spirit perhaps. Not unattractive either, nay, certainly not. But unlike the late Godfrey, he didn't look much pleased with her, nor her deeds. Silence stretched between them. Someone broke it. ... Are you kidding me? He was the one to shatter the impasse. Of all the rotten luck ... Not now, Kurama. Who was this Kurama of which he spoke? To his credit, the boy man didn't panic, though she did behold a faint flash of recognition tinged with alarm. Anger knotted his visage and he sat up, his shoulders stiff. He let the sheets bunch about his waist. If he was at all embarrassed by his nakedness, he did little to show it. Nay, his gaze remained fixed firmly on hers. For a moment, she wondered if he might attack her. He certainly looked irritated enough. At length he leaned back, however, palming his face. What did you put in that wine? Anger knotted in Marika's heart. Nay, surely not. He would be a fool to even suggest such. Whatever are you implying, good sir? She lifted her chin, a rare pang of mulish, girlish defiance coursing through her veins. If thou think I drugged thee, I would have you reconsider. When he balked, she huffed. 'Tis no fault of mine thou canst handle thy wine. Did he look a bit stung by that remark? Good. She hoped so. She was a goddess. A beauty unparalleled in the lands between. Men craved her. Women wanted to be her. She had no need of drugs or potions. To even imply such. ... We are not having this conversation. He stumbled upright with a groan, letting the sheets fall away. It's too early for this. Another groan was immediately forthcoming when he beheld the tattered, battered threads of his attire, or rather the lack thereof. "Oh, come on, I like that outfit." He bent down to retrieve a ruined stitch of cloth, unaware of her following gaze. "Now I need new clothes." "You need not worry, O consort." The words escaped her before she could think to hold them back. "You shall have them." He squinted at her. "Consort," Marika preened. "'Tis a high honor." Yes, the more she thought about it, the more she found herself warming to the idea. There would be no need to recall Radigan to the capital immediately, though she might yet consider raising his children to their rightful status regardless of this outcome. This one would serve. She did so like defiant men, or rather, the act of breaking them. Godfrey had been much the same before he realized the benefits of bowing to her. "Yeah," the man scoffed aloud. "Well, it ain't what I want." Bye. Just like that, he stalked toward the exit, leaving her naked and alone. All that pride turned to ash in Marika's mouth. He was really doing it, the lout, just abandoning her like some witless maiden. She clambered upright after him, hastily conjuring a white shift with her powers. "Where art thou going?" "Then raid the kitchen and find something to wear." He howled back. "We'll talk after." A rare pang of panic bleeded in her heart. She didn't even know who he was. Rumors would fly, and though she cared not a jot for them, she still found herself at something of a loss. Just who was this oaf? All thoughts of smiting him or cursing him fell to the wayside, replaced by simple need to know who he was. She would remember this indignity and revisit it upon him tenfold. But for now, wait, she cried out, flinging a finger at him. "Your name, I would have your name." He glared bloody red daggers at her. "Naruto," his piece said. The blonde stalked out. Marika found herself left alone glowering after him, unable to follow, because her legs refused to obey her, rooted to the floor by fear. Fear. Her. She'd not felt a thing before. Not once. Not ever. And yet one look at him, at the ire in those eyes, had been enough to still her where she stood. He had dismissed her as though she were nothing to him. No one. Her lips pursed into a thin line. She was a goddess. A queen. No one had ever treated her like this before, and yet this Naruto dared. This wasn't over. Let him have his victory. She had his name. His defiance would avail him not. Not a jot. How little she knew. "I cannot control him, brother." Radigan did not smile at Marika's plight. No, nay, never. He didn't take the slightest bit of amusement in watching his sister rant and rave like the little girl she no longer was. Nor did he enjoy watching her stamp and stomp about her chambers as she flung things to and fro. He certainly didn't chuckle as she swore and spat all manner of unqueenly profanities. Anyone who said otherwise was a filthy heretic. All right, perhaps he did find this amusing. Maybe, a tad, just a touch. When one lived in a world without destined death, moments such as these broke up the monotony of an otherwise endless existence. For if Marika's mischief was held legendary, so too was her temper. Could one blame him then for enjoying himself thus? He had not seen his other half act like a person for an age now. Indeed, when was the last time he'd seen the other half of his soul like this, hair down, throwing a tantrum? Not since the Greater Will first descended upon the world and named them Empyrean. Radigan knew the true reasons for Marika's woes, of course. She was not used to being defied, let alone treated like a normal human being. It was only natural that he knew such. They were of one soul after all, two bodies, two minds, yet one. Few secrets were kept from one another. Once upon a time they had been something ... more. They were both wild back then, even known to lay with one another on occasion. But those days were long past. He had come to call and give advice as requested, but he would not take a place as her consort. That moment was lost. His place was with Rinala and their children. No other. His dear darling sister would have to find her own way in this. He winced but a little as Marika snarled at an unlucky servant, sending the poor girl scurrying from the room. Poor lass. He'd have to apologize to that one later. Perhaps a bit of jewelry and a few runes to raise her spirits. Wouldn't do for the lands between to think his sister mad. Why does this ail thee? He raised his voice at the last, capturing his twin's attention. Thy current consort seems a good sort. Marika rounded on him with a hiss. He is no consort at all. And yet you have named him such. The queen whined. Adorable. Radigan had heard tell of this young man long before he'd come back to the capital. Godwin spoke well of him in his letters. This Naruto fellow was doing good work in the realm, running about righting wrongs, forging friendships and alliances wherever he went. Even the dragons loved him, which in turn begged the question, why was his sister so cross? A cry was his only warning. Radigan's body moved on instinct, feet shifting ever so slightly. A stone tablet whirled past his head, struck a wall, and shattered there like so much glass. He quirked a brow. Marika glowered right back, left hand still extended, utterly out of sorts. Chest heaving, hair in disarray, she glared golden daggers at him. She straightened, then swallowed once to comport herself. He does whatever he wishes. I have no power over him. And now they came to the meat of the matter. 'Tis a good thing, is it not? She hefted another tablet with intent. Explain thyself, brother of mine. He treats thee like a mortal, does he not? When was the last time someone did such? In all days to come, Radigan would remember the look of utter disbelief on his sibling's face. It was a look he knew all too well. He'd worn the very same once. Before Rinala, before a mere mortal, a mistress of magic, fought him to a standstill on those blasted fields outside the academy. He had been humbled that day. Humbled ... and utterly stricken. His sister was not. Though they were one and the same, his experiences were not hers. Marika had grown proud in his absence, with naught but the greater will to whisper in her ear. Sometimes he wondered if the lands between would not be better off without the Elden Beast and its ilk. Things had been so much simpler before the Erdtree had come to these lands, and the Elden Ring with it. Such thoughts were heresy, of course, and best kept to oneself. You could be carrying his child even now. He laughed a little at the jest. Best not to strain thyself over much. Marika uttered another whine noise, made to whip a pillow at his head. Paused, gasped. "'Twas a joke, sister of mine. Not that." She tore at her hair. "I just remembered. That lot went into the sewers yesterday." Radagon blinked for all of a moment. Realization dawned. Oh dear, that might be a problem. Whatever could he want down there? The ground shook underfoot. Marika whined anew. "Now do you see?" God, when the golden smiled as the capital shook beneath his feet. Seemed the consort had found his objective. "I'll see you soon, brothers." Morgott lived in filth. He wore filth, ate filth, was filth. Such was the way of life, or rather, his life. He had no say in the matter, regardless how he might wish otherwise. "'Twas a cruel cosmic joke. He and Moog, two twins born of the golden lineage, meant for greatness ... only to be consigned to this miserable existence by an accident of birth. Damned day after day to live down in the dark, with naught but rotten rejects for company. Omens they called them, accursed, unworthy of seeing the light of day. Life was a cruel joke. Moog might delight in the darker depths of the shunning grounds, reveling in his curse, but he did not. He longed for the surface, to one day walk past the silent seal Queen Marika Mother had erected and see the light of day, to be welcomed by the Erdtree and given the grace he had been denied at birth. It was this wish that sustained him in his darker moments. A fever dream, brittle like the crude facsimile cane he wielded. Brittle like all his hopes and dreams. "Excuse me." Someone tapped his shoulder, rousing him from them. Morgott paid him no heed and kept his eyes closed, thoughts gone inward as he faced the wall. He wished nothing more than to sleep, for in sleeping he could dream, and in his dreams at least, he would be far from this forsaken pit of filth. Yes, sleep. That was all he wished for, to just sleep and slip away. Hello." A voice came on again, tugging him back from his sweet escape. "You all right there, buddy? I just need a second." His brow twitched. "Nay, do not rise to the bait. Only madmen and monsters lurked here. Leave me be, whoever thou art." "Well, I would, but I'm kinda looking for someone, and you're the first person who hasn't attacked me down here." He paused for a breath, then barreled on. "I'm looking for a man named Morgott." Curious. An eye creaked open under his horns. "I am Morgott." A triumphant cry filled his chamber, rattling the walls and ceiling alike. "Finally found you. So be it. If this fool would not leave him be, he'd just have to drive him off. Perhaps then he could sleep." Morgott rolled over and clambered to his feet slowly, looming over his guest. His height alone was usually enough to drive would-be challengers away. If not, then his cursed blade would oft do the rest. "I will give thee one chance to leave," he intoned, reaching for his cane. "You would do well to avail yourself of it." "Nope." He found himself somewhat irritated to find a pair of bright blue eyes blinking up at him, set within a whiskered face framed by tawny blonde hair. "Nice to meet you," the young man chirruped. "I'm Naruto." As he looked on aghast, the man thrust a hand his way. "I've heard an awful lot about you. You're a hard man to find. I've been turning this place inside out for nearly a day now." Morgott paused. What was this fool doing here in the shunning grounds? He spoke as if he knew him, but no, surely not. To even entertain the thought threatened to shatter him completely. A perfectly healthy stranger down in the depths might mean an end to his suffering at last. In the end his tongue betrayed him, as his body often did. "Why have you come here?" "I'm here to take you back to the surface, of course." The blonde braggart said, such as though "'T were obvious. Why else would I be here?" Morgott reared back. What nonsense was this? Take him to the surface. A pang of awful longing kicked at the omen's cest. He shoved it down. "I cannot go. My place is here." Only death awaited him if he ventured past the seal, assuming he could even make it past. Mother's magic was a potent thing indeed. Moog had tried once, never again. Should they make it past such, they would face the wrath of the Golden Order itself. They'd be slaughtered. "Boy," the blonde's face darkened. "What kind of attitude is that? Don't tell me you want to stay down here." Indignation burned in the omen's cest like a furious flame. "Of course I don't, you twit. But what choice do I have? Such is mine fate. ... Fate." A curious change came over the blonde, then. His face closed down. That once sunny smile slipped away, bleeding into a curiously blank expression, one that was soon hidden as he hung his head. And yet he did not shout at him. He did not rant. Nor did he rage at what he'd been told. Instead he merely raised his right hand. Morgott looked on, baffled, as the blonde curled the fingers of that hand into a fist. Slowly, almost ponderously, he swung that arm back, leaving it parallel to his chest. Then he moved. Clenched knuckles struck a filth-encrusted wall at speed and everything shook. There could be no other word for it. One moment he stood before him, in the next, the underground rattled and Morgott found himself driven to a knee. "I am so sick of people going on about fate and destiny around here." The words escaped his unlikely ally in a raspy growl. "You're a freak." Blue eyes blazed down at him. "Who said that? You have to live here." "Who decided that?" A stern finger stabbed outward, jabbing him hard twice in the chest. "You decide such things. It ain't a sin to be born into this world. He raised that clenched fist. No matter what anyone might say. Bold words. Morgoth climbed to his feet. But what would you know of such things? Naruto smiled at the caustic retort. Not a sly, scheming smile like Mogue would make, or even a happy one at that. T was a small, sad, miserable little smirk, a bitter grin that told of pain not unlike his own. Impossible, of course. None had suffered such as he. To pretend otherwise was blasphemy at best, heresy at worst. More than you know. Any doubts he might have had were stripped away by that response. There was truth in those words. A familiar pain, long healed, but not truly erased. Suffering like that marks a man, just as it had marked this one. He stood there, eyes narrow, stance stern, refusing to yield. Still, he sought to rally. The golden order dictates. Bugger the order. The blonde barked, bringing him up short. I've smacked a god down before and I ain't above doing it again. It was too much to hope for. Morgoth didn't want to hope. Hoping hurt. Hoping meant there was a chance things could change. Hoping meant that inevitable letdown would sting all the more. But that curious feeling in his chest yet persisted. He didn't know what to make of it. Did Mother truly send you down here? Weelo, he looked away, scratching at a whiskered cheek. I might have come down here and broken the seal myself, but don't worry. His smile didn't waver, even as he smacked a fist into an open palm. It'll all work out. I'm sure of it. And if it doesn't, then I'll make it work. The way he said it, so very simple, so straightforward, shook him. Don't worry, I've got this. And mine, brother. Naruto made a face. Not sure about him. You, though. He kicked his way upright to lean against a wall. You're all right. A little bitter maybe, kinda misguided, but I've worked with worse. So, we're going topside right now. Once I've got you sorted, I'll come back down here for your brother. Sound good? Great. You foolish whelp. Morgoth tried to rally. One last time. You cannot simply declare. Can. A hand latched onto his wrist. I deny your denial. Then he dragged him into the light. Marika was easy to tease. Naruto discovered this fundamental truth relatively early on in their relationship. Courtship. Hateship. He wasn't sure what he had with the queen, or if it was anything at all for that matter. He couldn't stand her half the time, likewise for Marika. Yet inevitably when tempers flared and wine flowed, somehow they kept falling into bed with one another. Regardless, this discovery made what came next all the more entertaining for him. Not so the eternal queen. It began with tiny things between his adventures in the lands between, subtle little acts to simultaneously see where her limits lay and get a rise out of her. A misplaced undergarment here, a bit of dye there, then a bit of misdirection when she least expected it. Toss in the occasional oil pot and he had her sputtering as much as slipping and sliding everywhere. He'd never forget the look on her face the first time he pegged her with one of those pots. She'd been after him with her hammer the entire day, much to everyone's chagrin. Worth it. Unfortunately, in his glee, he failed to realize another truth. Marika could give as good as she got. Indeed, she was a trickster in her own right. There was a veil known as Marika's mischief after all. That should have been his first warning. More fool he for ignoring it. When she finally stopped trying to smack him with that hammer of hers, he assumed she'd given up. Marika knew not the meaning of such a phrase. He wouldn't realize that until much later. Her vengeance proved slow and insidious, subtle even, taking place over a great many days. By the time he noticed, it was too late. Rather than call him out like anyone else, or try to beat him like a certain someone who shall not be named, she retaliated in kind. Not with pranks or poking and prodding, but something else altogether. She used herself. A slip of cloth here, a bit of skin there, a subtle touch when they passed one another in the hall. She'd feign weakness and lean against him for some reason or another, reveling in the way his face burned. Her hand would run over his thigh when they sat together. Other acts in private he didn't care to speak of. She was clearly trying to tempt him. He knew it. She knew it as well, blast her. It was working, too. Now that he knew the pleasures of the flesh, he was aware of certain things he'd failed to notice before. He pranked her even harder in retaliation. As such, her flirtations grew all the more overt. It could only end one way. Things finally reached a head 9 months later. Victory was hers. Marika wasn't smug about her triumph. Nay, she was a goddess. She did not rejoice in finally getting one over on her consort. Of course not. She was above such petty things. She had no need for vengeance, nor did she feel the need to gloat. But here she was, sprawled out in the sheets, grinning like a loon. Grinning, as her consort stomped away, naked as the day he was born. She could have let him go as she had before, but such was not her way. Marika needed to have the last word. She had to. It was simply her nature. Leaving so soon, she cooed after him. And here I thought you had more stamina than that. I'll have a bit of cheese and bread from the kitchens. She continued on into the silence. A pitcher of juice, too. Naruto kept right on walking. Bite me. No, thank you. She had her lips and sank back to the sheets. I already had my fill. A frustrated shout rattled the walls and ceiling. Marika reveled in his anger, though she knew she'd pay dearly for that later. What was the phrase of which her consort had grown so fond? Worth it. Yes, there was the one. Spreading her arms above her head, she closed her eyes and sank into the pillows with a content sigh. She'd taken him to bed again, but this time the last words was hers. Wine and words had flowed, but T was she who had taken the initiative, she who had shoved him down and ridden him to oblivion, she who stirred first and needled him relentlessly for his brief lapse. Let him stalk off to the kitchens. His sulking would avail him naught. I win. It felt damnably good to say such. Thought he could prank her, did he? Silly boy. She had been playing this game far longer than he. Naruto thought himself a master in the art of pranks, when in truth he was but a novice. The outcome of their war had never been in question. He'd already lost. He simply had yet to realize it. What was that? Blast, had he heard her? T was nothing, mine consort. His shoulders stiffened, and really, they were very nice shoulders as an angry tremor rattled him. He didn't give her the satisfaction of looking back, but he did flip her a middle finger salute. Her gaze roved over his arm and the bite marks she'd left there, the scratches that were even now healing. Stubborn boy. He'd given as good as he got, but it didn't change the fact that that felt for their nice lower, please slower. Wait, when had he moved? Rational thoughts dissolved into mindless bliss as strong hands grasped her by the buttocks and lifted, hoisting her upright with ease. Heat shot up Marika's pale neck. How bold. Had he done such to her in public before her subjects, she would have slapped him silly. Now she made a pleased noise, happy to see his fire again, but alarmed by his speed all the same. Thou dost not lack for speed, it seems. You said you won. Warm lips brushed her ear, sending a shiver shooting down her spine. Care to say that again? Lady, she snapped back, tossing her head. This is my victory, and 'tis not a thing you can go about. Words trailed off as he laid a line of scalding kisses against her neck. Felt rather nice actually. Marika huffed, body beginning to squirm. You do realize, of course, that this means war. There it was, that impish smile again. You dare challenge a prank master. Dear consort, I've been at this game far longer than thee. She threw her weight back, sending them tumbling down into the sheets. Stars flashed before her vision as his forehead struck hers. Two could play that game. Marika returned the favor twofold, drawing a hiss from him. Blue eyes met gold. Something sparked all over again. She wasn't sure who moved after that, only that someone did. Him, her, didn't matter. His lips were on hers, her mouth on his hands holding her tight. Her legs locked round him, a fire burning in her breasts, hitching now against his chest as they clawed at one another anew. To her shame, she cried his name more than once as he took her. Time blurred, and the world with it. When it was done and they lay together, spent, Marika found she could scarcely move, but she couldn't contain her smugness. She let herself cuddle against him, enjoying the comfort of his hard body against hers. She even deigned to let him hold her, nuzzling against him in a rare moment of release. Because you see, she'd won. This was the proof she'd sought. He desired her. He wanted her. He needed her. Even if he wouldn't admit it. She'd get him yet. And then, then what? Marika felt her lips purse as her thoughts soured. She'd finally gotten one up on the baffling blonde boy, that couldn't be denied, but what came after? What did she want from this? What did she want from him? To break him. Once, such a thought would have entertained her. Now she disagreed. To break Naruto, assuming such was even possible, would rob him of that fire that infuriated her so. It would also take the life out of their little war. Such would be boring. Monotonous, even. He would never yield to her, never cry out her name in ecstasy as she did his. She could try to shatter him, but doing so would rob Naruto of what made him him. Marika didn't want that. The thought startled her, alarmed her, terrified her. Why? She wanted to control him, to make him hers, didn't she? I don't want him to change. She nearly jolted upright, and it was only his arms holding her that prevented such. Such nonsense. Still, surely there was nothing wrong with enjoying this game a little while longer. No need to cut her entertainment short. A tiny shiver shook her. It felt dare she say good, to have something to focus on. A challenge, a goal, an endgame, to be pushed in a way she hadn't since she was a wee slip of a girl. He'd actually made her try, exercising both herself and her charms. Not that she'd tell anyone. Radigan would never let her live such indignity down. And unlike the other half of her soul, Marika chose her battles wisely. Naruto could have his petty victories. T would be she who won the war. And what would come of such a union? Children, perhaps. T was not an unpleasant thought. She'd like a proper pair of twins, unsullied by her mistakes. Morgat was still skittish around her, to say nothing of Moog. But they at least had a place here. Henceforth, the Omen twins would serve the Golden Order for the greater good. Even if they could never stand to inherit, their place was made clear. Naruto was to blame for that, of course. Shortly after he'd plucked the Omen twins from the depths, much to her chagrin, Naruto had waltzed right into the Erd Tree. Not 5 minutes later, he'd emerged with the Greater Will's blessing. To this day, Marika didn't know what he'd said to the Elden Beast, only that he'd wrangled some manner of concession from the steward of the Greater Will. Had he threatened the Elden Beast? Nay, surely not. Even he wasn't that foolish. It still did little to dull the fact that she'd abandoned them, her boys, and she'd thrown them away because the Greater Will demanded it. That was not a bridge so easily mended, no matter what Godwin might wish. But she digressed. Yes, a fresh start sounded nice. A chance to begin anew, to correct her mistakes. Perhaps a daughter. She'd rather like that. Melania sounded like a lovely name for a girl. Mequella too, if it was a boy. Twins. Yes, that sounded nice. Unbidden, her mind strayed, imagining a darling little red-headed girl tugging at her skirts for attention. In her mind's eye she looked down at her and gasped. She was perfect, a flawless union of her mother and father alike, and yet for all that, her eyes were the most piercing shade of blue. "Mama," a little voice squealed in her heart. No, nay, never." Pride reared its ugly head soon thereafter and the daydream shattered. She would not be his broodmare. But a child. She wanted a child. From the first moment she'd entertained the thought, a seed had sprouted in her. Now it took root, growing with passing moment. Godwin and the twins would soon be young men, and Raiden had his own pups to look after. Young though they were, was it so wrong to want a daughter of her own? Could she not have a children? On her terms. Who was to say that she couldn't? On a whim, she acted. She was a goddess after all, and she'd just laid with her consort. It was the work of but a moment to ensure such, to make certain her womb quickened. Marika laid a hand on Naruto's chest and nudged her beloved. He stirred with a sigh. Steeling herself, she looked him in the eye and batted her lashes. Would you like to be a father? Her dear consort had no say in the matter, of course. He would be one, whether he wished to be one or not. Still, she wished to see the measure of him. He creaked open blue eyes with a sigh, utterly unaware of what she'd just done. "You're pregnant, ain't ya?" Marika's silence proved telling. Downright smug, even. Now came the final test. His response. She heard Naruto's throat close. Fine. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Twins, she said instead. I shall have twins, a boy and a girl. Naruto made a squelching sound. You did that on purpose. Marika only cuddled closer, hiding a smile in his chest. How her consort surprised her, even now. They'll be wonderful. Just you wait. The laughter of a little redhead rang through Lanedell. Bare feet scampered across warm cobblestones, skipped down a hall, kicked off a wall, then darted round the corner to be lost from sight entirely. Although she vanished, her giggling yet echoed. Not a single royal knight dared challenge her trespass. Most knew better these days. Those that didn't were swiftly warned by their fellows. If only for the retribution their lord would visit upon them. T was his only daughter, after all. To harm her was to bring the wrath of the Elden Lord down upon them all. Malenia, of course, knew none of this. Her mind was fixed on a single point with all the focus of a 5-year-old. Only one goal, to the exclusion of all else. Merry blue eyes fixed on mother's bedchamber only a stone's throw away, and beyond it, the might stairs leading up to the Erdtree proper. Mequella was up there even now, making the final preparations. She wouldn't let her other half down, because we're so close now. The final stretch. If she could just make it up to the Erdtree unnoticed then. And what, pray tell, a gravelly voice intoned behind her, art thou doing, little sister? Meep. Malenia froze. Up did she look, up, and up some more. Nothing at all, Morgott. Oh? Her elder brother quirked a pale brow at the bundle concealed in her hands. T would seem to be something. Malenia gulped. Mustn't let him see the bundles of dye. Big brother Morgott looked scary with his great height and crown of horns, but in truth he was a big softy. He'd act gruff but show him a bit affection and he'd repay it in kind. She remembered fondly the time he'd carried her on his shoulder or let her play with his tail. Not like Moog. That one frightened her. Far too quiet, far too bloody and far too interested in Mequella for her liking. More fool he. Her beloved brother had been trained in father's martial arts. He wouldn't tolerate any unwanted advances. But it was Morgott whom Malenia faced today, and she knew it was Morgott whom she must appease. Your lord father won't be pleased if he catches wind of your little scheme, never mind. Mother. He always hesitated when he mentioned her. Father said he was shy. Maybe he was. Malenia couldn't pretend to understand any of it, but she did sympathize with the expression her kin wore now. She was looking for the more dresses, most likely, or perhaps another audience with the wretched 2 fingers. Malenia squirmed in place and hung her head. Could you not tell anyone you saw me, perchance? I could. Morgott allowed with a grave look, his dour expression never once wavering in the face of her pleading. But why ever would I do such a thing? If it had come to this time to break out her tried and true tactics. Malenia set her parcel down and clasped both hands before her. Please. The omen heaved a drawn-out sigh and palmed his grey visage. Whatever will I do with thee? Thy antics truly baffle me. Please. A golden eye peeked out through his fingers. Do as thou will, sister. 'Tis no concern of mine. Malenia's head snapped up, eyes wide. Wait, asking nicely actually worked. He was letting her go. Just like that. A fierce flash of joy burned through her and she darted forward to give him a hug. Best brother ever. Morgott stiffened, but made no effort to dislodge her from his leg. Better than Godwin. She grinned up at him, eyes alight. Much better. Do not get caught. Morgott muttered something else and gave her a nudge. That was all the prodding she needed. Off she shot, faster than an arrow loosed from a bow. Her mind wandered as she ran. Godwin was grand and all, but more often than not her eldest brother was away from the capital, brokering peace in father's name. Morgott was the face she'd grown up with, a familiar face alongside Mequella. She rather liked her brothers. Mequella was best, of course. No one could be better than him. Everyone said he was special, just like her, that they were both Empyrean. The 2 fingers hailed her and her twin as new gods, destined to lead the lands between into a new era, to guide the world with the shadows they would soon receive. Nalenia didn't want to rule. She was just a child. She just wanted to live. Carefully now, she poked her head round the corner. Mercifully, there wasn't a soul to be seen in Mother's bedchamber. Thank the spirits for small mercies. Had an attendant been nearby, they surely would have seen her, and then all would have been for naught. But they did not, thus she escaped without a care in the world. She spied Miquella hanging from one of the lower arches in the plaza ahead. He sensed her approach and offered a jaunty wave, making a sign with his right hand. It was a code only they used, and one that had Nalenia moving just a little faster. Excellent. He'd nearly finished. Once she brought her die up to him, they'd finally get one up on Father. He'd never see this coming. He'd best not. After all, he'd promised to teach them a secret technique if they ever managed to pull one over on him. T would be a prank to end all pranks, of that Nalenia could say for certain. There, she said proudly. A shadow fell over her as she cleared the last step. What are you up, clever girl? Blast. Nalenia whirled to face her sire. Naruto Uzumaki, consort to Queen Marika and second Elden Lord, sage of the lands between, stood not a stone's throw away, leaning against the very arch she'd just passed through. To many in the capital, he was akin to a god. But to her, he was daddy. In this moment that made him all the more terrifying. He looked, well, happy. That usually spelled ill for her and Miquella. Nalenia. The little redhead squeaked and hid both arms behind her back. Blast. She'd gotten distracted. Yes, father. Naruto knew that look. What have you got there? Nalenia didn't budge. Not a jot. Is that paint? ... No. His brow furrowed. Wait, where's your brother? High above the... Miquella lost his footing with a yelp and fell out a nearby tree spattered in blue dye. Naruto casually caught her twin by the waist and slung him to the floor, uncaring of the paint that fell down to spatter his hair and tunic. Realization dawned. Blue eyes widened. His gaze swept to her. Narrowed. Nalenia squeaked anew. Miquella tried to rally. Surprise. The cat was out the bag now. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Huh. Nalenia flung her own packet of dye at father with a cry. Naruto didn't even deign to dodge. It spattered his cesta merry green, adding another blotch of color amidst the blue and amber. His brow climbed yet higher as he gazed down at his ruined outfit. Silence stretched between the three of them. No one moved. No one dared to breathe. And then father blurred. Nalenia found herself hauled into his paint-spattered cest, and Miquella with her. For a moment, it almost sounded like father was laughing. No, wait. He was. I'm so proud. You wish for them to meet Radeg and Spawn. Marika pursed her lips. You will do no such thing. Nope. Naruto folded both arms behind his head. Already set it up. She scowled at him. Cease thy noping. Hey, let the kids play with one another. Builds bonds. Nalenia wanted to be a good girl. Truly, she did. She wanted to prove that she could listen and learn, to make her family proud. That was all she longed for, to prove herself to them, father and mother and Miquella alike. Father, who had gone so far as to procure the services of a certain blind swordsman to train her. Mother, who would always comb her long hair and sing softly to her. Miquella, who understood her better than anyone else. Morgott and Godwin and possibly Moog mattered too, but those three were ever at the forefront of her mind. She just knew, that given time, she would be the most skilled in the land. But right now she found herself grappling with a different foe. Father had arranged something he called whatever was a playdate. Semantics, she supposed. Regardless of his wording, had 3 siblings she'd not known about 3, 2 of which had been brought to visit today. One of them was meeting with Miquella. The other, a girl, had been brought to her. So yes, she was trying to be the best he could be. She really was. But it was just so hard. How in blazes could she behave when this girl was being an absolute witch to her? Tea would not be a problem if you weren't such a child. Nalenia hissed out a breath. To look at her, one could easily see the resemblance. They were each pale of skin and fair of face, with striking red hair. The difference being that Ranni had at least 2 years on her, and her eyes were a cold starry gold, while Nalenia's were blue as the sky itself. Likewise her robe stood a cold blue on white, the shade of winter, a stark contrast to the verdant green tunic she wore. Are you listening, churl? To say nothing of her attitude. Nalenia never understood how dear Miquella could weather such insults with a smile. Father's patience, bless him. Alas, she did not possess such. She only had mother's temper. Her smile became just a trifle more forced. She had brothers aplenty, was true, but a small part of her had always longed for a sister. If this was how she would act, if she was going to treat her like she was nothing and no one, beneath her in every way, then to hell with it. Are words your only strength? I could beat you in a fight. My father could certainly trounce yours. Nonsense, Ranni tutted. Mine would wipe the floor with your sire. Her head butted against hers. Something ugly stirred in Nalenia's heart, rotting her self-control yet further. She pulled back and drew herself up to her full height. At such a young age she was still shorter than Ranni, but mother had taught her how to command a room and respect with it. She drew upon those teachings now, wrapping herself in a cloak of confidence. I am the child of a god and a sage. Watch your words. Ranni bridled. You dare. I dare. Nalenia scowled and let a touch of power turn her eyes red, eyes slitted like those of a great beast. Do you know to whom you speak? One day I will rule this realm in my mother's stead. What say you of your parentage? Ranni tried to rally. I'll be a queen as well. Queen, you say? She didn't need to fake the venom in her voice. Queen of a kingdom my father could trample in an instant. Randy's mouth said shut. What's wrong? Each word was a battering ram now, hammering down the older girl's confidence as surely as a great sword. You were so full of confidence earlier. Is this all thy wit amounts to? She tossed her head, flinging her scarlet tresses over one shoulder. There's no accounting for taste, I suppose. It was too much. Randy lunged. Melania met her with a snarl. In hindsight, she wasn't sure who got the first hit in. In truth, she didn't much care. It never mattered how a battle started, only how it ended. With her planting her foot on the bigger girl's back, a fistful of hair in hand as she pushed Randy into the floor. She stomped down now, yanking furiously, drawing a cry from her victim. Say you're sorry, Randy snarled. Never. Strong hands pried them apart. She looked up, alarmed to find father there. Apologize. Renala nudged her own child with a frown. You too, little Ranny. The latter huffed and crossed both arms before her chest as she looked away. Melania did the same. Naruto jostled her a little. Don't make me spank you. In public. He wouldn't. Oh, who was she kidding? He absolutely would. She still thought Papa was stronger than Uncle Radig, and nay, she knew. Mama, Randy cried suddenly, startling her. Melania pulled my hair. She rounded on her with a hiss. Randy started it. Not me. T was her. Melania scowled at Randy. The witch scowled right back. In a moment, it was settled. Enemies for life. My darling girl got into a fight. And she won. Against one older than she. Naruto palmed his face and resisted the urge to slump in his throne. You would focus down on that part. But of course, Marika squirmed atop his lap with thinly veiled glee, long legs knocking against the back of his knees as she kicked out with a laugh. As expected of our daughter. He dutifully ignored the way her rear ground against him as she swayed in place. This close, and in that gossamer thin black gown, he could feel every bit of her pressing down on him. Did she know what she was doing? If she was tipsy again, then perhaps not. And oh, wait. A golden eye sought over her shoulder, framing the ghost of a sly smile. She did. Foul temptress. Even when she was celebrating, she found new ways to confound him. Right on cue, Marika moved her hips ever so subtly, drawing a grunt from him. Cheeky little. Two could play that game. Kurama grumbled sullenly in his head and closed his eyes. I swear, the two of you. Always trying to one-up each other. Wake me when this absurd courtship ritual is over. Well, the old fox wasn't wrong. Naruto knew what Marika was doing. They'd done this dance for the last few years now, ever seeking to outdo one another, outlast one another, torment each other, all in the name of sweet, sweet victory. Be it with words, actions, or even the occasional prank. Where were their victories? The last time she'd gotten the better of him. Well, that had led to Melania and Miquela's birth. She wouldn't wring another from him that easily. Whatever is the matter, mine dear consort. Her voice was a faint whisper, tugging him back to reality with clawing sweetness. Surely thou art not discomfited by such a trivial act. He grabbed her by the hips, drawing a gasp from her as his fingers dug into her waist. Never. Nay, of course not. She grinned. But do control yourself. We have guests. Blast, he'd forgotten. They had an audience. Renala quirked a dark brow in their direction from her own chair, serene as ever despite their display. I believe Ranny acquitted herself well in today's scuffle. I'm sure. Marika's smile was nothing short of sly as she looked toward her fellow queen. Alas, not as well as my Melania. Radig coughed into a fist from his seat beside her. Sister, I'm not apologizing. Naruto exhaled in a long suffering sigh. Why did I agree to this meeting again? Your own fault for deciding to spawn. They retired to the Elden throne to talk, just the four of them. 5 if one counted Kurama. It wasn't so much by choice as necessity. Marika wanted to hear all about Melania's spat, which meant her other half found himself terribly interested in what provoked Randy to instigate said fight. And thus it fell to him and Renala to recount the whole sordid affair. Now, with the children left to flourish to their heart's content in the lower sanctuary, they were free to speak their minds in relative peace beneath the light of the Erd tree and the afternoon sun. Marika was certainly speaking hers. Bathed in the resplendent light of the towering oak, she simply couldn't keep the smile from her face. She radiated satisfaction as she lounged in his lap. Another sign that she was in a supremely good mood. She'd rarely do such in public. One might even say that she was the smug. Even now the Eternal Queen was grinning fit to burst as she traded barbs with Renala. My little girl's first scrap. I'm so proud. Oh gods, there she went, gushing over there again. Do you think she'll use a hammer someday? There was a decidedly starry glint in her eyes, one that said her mind had strayed terribly far away from them. Perhaps I can convince her to take that up instead of the sword. I'd call it more a brawl than a real fight, Radig aloud, but that's the long and short of it, I'd say. I'd expect no less from my daughter. Meika preened. She takes after me, you know. Your temper, more like. Naruto chimed. 'Tis all one and the same to me, dear one. His fellow blonde puffed out her chest. She shares my prowess for combat, my hunger for battle. Goodness, she really was just full of openings today, wasn't she? If you call spitting and scratching battle. It drew a small smile from Renala. Less so Marika. Is that so? She batted long lashes at him with singular menace. Thou did not complain overmuch when I scratched. No. Naruto clamped a hand over her mouth, muffling her words. He felt her grin against his fingers. We are not sharing pillow talk, hero. Did you just bite me? She was still grinning when he took his hand away, the cheeky minx. Whatever you're thinking, don't say it. Renala giggled into her palm, a soft, drawn-out hum echoing into the air. For all thine squabbles, 'Twould seem the two of you are well and truly in love. Both blondes bucked. With her, divided by with him. Is it such a bad thing? The carrion queen smiled indulgently. My lord Radagon and I were once much same. We met on the field of battle, the most bitter of enemies. Her head came to rest upon his shoulder. Yet look at us now. Radagon rumbled a laugh and laid a hand over hers. Quite so, Marika huffed, looking away to sulk. 'Tis hardly the same. Naruto opened his mouth to protest, closed it, squinted at the duo before them. Renala's retort rang true, but another man's married was hardly something he wanted to get into. In any case, I'm sorry about Melania, and likewise, I offer my apologies for Rani. Radagon nodded and accepted the olive branch for what it was. She's usually not so ill-behaved. Renala touched a hand to his shoulder. You didn't do anything wrong, my dear. The fault is hers, not yours. He favored her with a lingering look, but subsided beneath her stare. As my lady says, I do so say. She smiled. My lord would do well to listen. Now it was Naruto's turn to chuckle. Radagon and Marika were of the same soul. One he'd not had chance to meet until today. Which was why he found himself absolutely flummoxed by the bastard, because he wasn't one at all. Rather than reflect the other half of his shared soul, he was downright reasonable. Perfectly pleasant even. That said, Radagon rumbled on, did our daughters really expect us to fight? Naruto shrugged. In truth, he'd not given their squabbling much thought. Kids will be kids. Even if Marika does act like one, sometimes. Renala giggled. Marika scowled golden daggers at her. Watch thy tongue. Thou would not be so smug if you had to deal with this attitude every day. Perhaps we should give them what they want, then. This came from Radagon, surprising the lot of them. It might go a long way to easing tensions between the children. Naruto found himself rearing back. What, swap wives for a day?
Nay, a booming laugh. Nay, though I expect it would be amusing. Oh. His laughter redoubled when Renala pinched his arm. A jest, my love.
He continued to chortle as she tweaked his skin. Was merely a jest. No, I was considering their idea of a duel. Silence reigned supreme. Naruto's brow shot into his hair. Bad idea, even for you. Hold a moment. Marika sat a little straighter in his lap. That sounds like a grand plan. Renala hid a laugh behind her palm. For once we agree, though the outcome surely isn't in question. Indeed, the eternal queen made a pleased noise. Mine dear consort would surely trounce thine husband without effort. There it was, the gauntlet flung down. Dear Marika, I'm afraid thy brain is addled. My lord Radagon would be the victor in such a bout. Nay, 'tis thee who fails to see thine own folly. Sparks flew between them. Naruto cast Radagon a long-suffering look over their heads. You can't be serious. I'm quite serious. Radagon leaned forward in his throne to regard, eyes alight. Marika has led me to believe thou art a capable warrior.
Hand fell to the great sword at his side, that moonlight blade gleaming bright as his fingers wrapped around its hilt. I have been curious to test your mettle for some time now. As he looked on, the man rose fully, towering over him. What say ye?
Marika's gaze snapped to his. He accepts, of course. He nearly refused out of spite as much as principle. Why fight him? He had nothing to prove. His strength was every bit as potent now as it had been when he'd first fallen into the lands between. Maybe even more after all, he'd kept up his training. That said, he'd never really fought Marika or Radagon in a no-holds-barred brawl before. He'd never felt the need to do so. Why throw his weight around? Only a bully did such. Sure, the children might like a spectacle, but they would hold back, of course. Mistaking his silence for reluctance, Radagon prodded him anew. Wouldn't do to destroy the capital. No, it wouldn't. Renala flung up her arms. You are such boys. Naruto blew out a breath and ran a hand through his hair. Fine. Where are we gonna do this? Here. Seems as good a place as any. Have you apologized to Rani yet, dear sister? I didn't do anything wrong. Niquella sighed. Sister, stubborn to the last. The redhead folded both arms before her chest and looked away with an angry huff, refusing to meet his gaze or otherwise engage him. She held that position like a statue, only turning her head when he tried to step into her line of sight. Silence stretched between them, and still she uttered not a word. Melania, please. No. She bit her lip, blue eyes fixed on the wall. Sulking will only make matters worse. He laid an arm on his twin's shoulder, trying to steer her back toward Morgoth and the others. She's your sister, you know. Only a few more steps now. At the end of the family is all we have. Her heels bit down, denying him. I said no. Niquella exhaled slowly, released her, and folded all his irritation down into a neat little box. He took said box and buried it deep, locked it away in the back of his mind where it couldn't bother him. Melania might have inherited mother's temper, but he had gained other gifts in her stead. He'd inherited father's patience and love for life, coupled with mother's boundless determination. Truly, the best of both worlds. Yet why did he always to be the reasonable one? Why must he always play the mediator when everyone else sought discord? Sometimes he wanted nothing more than to breathe, calm
down. He was calm. His mind was a placid lake, the very picture of serenity. He wouldn't sink to such childish behavior.
Even if he was a child himself. Girls were confusing. Taking a deep breath, the little blonde closed his eyes and inhaled. Drew on the natural energy in the air. Let it flow through him. Strengthen him. Center him. Calm him. Father's teachings prevailed as always. When next he opened his eyes, they burned brighter than ever before. Melania. She flinched a little. He tapped his foot. Look at me. Reluctantly, his sister complied. Angry tears burned in her eyes. She insulted me. Made me feel small. I hate her. And now they came to the meat of the matter. Niquella understood Melania's feelings of inferiority far too well. They were the youngest of the demigods, after all. Godwin stood as eldest, followed by Morgoth and Mog. Even Rani and Radon outpaced them by a few years, with Rykard as a close second. Their position could hardly be called secure. Empyreans though they were, they'd not even received their shadows yet, though perhaps father was to blame for that. Regardless, any slight against them, no matter how small, was often taken personally, even if it wasn't meant as such. Did you not think she might feel the same of thee? Her eyes sought his. Explain. This is undoubtedly her first time visiting the capital proper, likely leaving home at that. He swept an arm back to where Rani sat in the corner, alternating between scowling furiously at the floor, everyone else, and the woven lad dutifully perched beside her. She and Blade must be reeling. No response. Fair enough. I'll have you know I got along with Radon. He continued slowly, choosing his words with infinite care. He was quite nice after I assured him I meant no harm. Melania glared at him. Traitor. He granted her a thin smile. Her resolve was crumbling. Never. You know I'd not betray thee. Still, they're blood of our blood. They gotta rise out of her. They're not our siblings. They are. He didn't waver. Mother and Radagon are one and the same soul. Any children of his are half-brothers and half-sisters of ours. You know this. Imagine how you would feel in her shoes if you were to visit the Carrion Manor by yourself. Her eyes softened. She looked away when he smiled. I'll think about it. The Queller released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding, shoulders slumping in relief. That's all I ask. In truth, Radon perfectly pleasant, a bit loud perhaps, but he meant well. He'd struck up a conversation with Morgoth and Moog over there by one of the balconies. Neither of the Horned Boys had been able to get away from him hence. Anyone who could get along with the Omen twins was a right friendly fellow in his book. He reserved judgment on Rykard for the time being until he met him. Apparently that one was home with the manor maids recovering from a cold or some such. Surely he could not be more difficult than Rani. Still he held to hope. They were family, after all. At the end of the day, family was all you had. The faint sound of approaching footsteps caused his ears to perk up. His senses, still bridling with sage chakra, alerted him at once. He felt a familiar warmth approaching their position, like distant sunlight from afar. As such he was well aware of father's presence long before he appeared on the upper terrace above. Judging by the yelp, Radon and the twins hadn't heard him coming. No surprise. Father's penchant for pranks was legendary in Lindell. They were lucky he hadn't hit them with something more inventive. As ever, he felt, good, you're all still here. The second Elden Lord grinned down at them, arms slung around a sullen Morgoth and Moog. We've got a treat for you kids, despite the fact that some of you misbehaved. Rani and Melania wilted with a whine. With a wave he turned, leaving them to follow. Come on up to the Elden throne. The children looked among themselves, trying to decide. Then they scarpered after him. A blonde squared off against a redhead. Melania looked on, rapt with attention as Naruto and Radagon faced one another before the thrones. Perhaps that wasn't the right word. They circled one another, stalked each other in slow, predatory strides. Everyone knew the second Elden Lord was powerful. Of that there could be no doubt. But he was facing a true god, or at least a piece of one. This would be no easy battle, and in truth, she bore Uncle Radagon no ill will. Still, she wanted to see her father to win, if only to silence Rani. They'd all been brought up here to watch, and in truth she found herself grateful for it. She'd expected a spanking, or a telling off at the least. She was sure the latter would be coming later. But for now, this was everything she'd wanted to see and more. Father rarely fought these days, not for real, never with a real weapon. The best she'd ever seen him use was the odd stick when he was teaching her, maybe a log or two when he got inventive. Now his ringed staff was out. The sight had her squirming in Mother's lap, eager for the duel to begin. When will they start? Marika laughed, a low contralto of glee ringing through the air. That eager, are we? Yes. Rani tutted from her perch atop Renala's knee. Thou art too eager, churl. This will be a crushing defeat. Her mother swatted her on the nose. Do not speak to thy sister that way, little Rani. But why ye? She's mean. Melania hissed and twitched her way, but Mother's arms held her fast. Patience, dear girl, she soothed. Watch and see. Radagon hefted his sword in a stoic salute. Naruto raised his staff and mirrored the motion. What'll it be? First blood or yield? Marika's other half smiled and took a stance, hammer raised high in his right hand. I'd prefer the latter. Naruto chuckled. Melania saw it, then. A glimmer of something in the eyes of her sire. Same. Now like it stepped back sharply and brought his left arm down. You may begin. For an awful moment, neither seemed to hear him. They stood stone still, and then, Naruto and Radagon blurred as one. Red met gold. Wind blasted out as their weapons collided. Once, twice, thrice, the very earth quivered underfoot with each strike. Moonlight sang with gold and Chakra answered it in kind. What followed couldn't be called a brawl. It was too graceful, too elegant, too fast to be anything else but a dance. They raged across the plaza in rapid waltz full of ripostes and parries, and ringing weapons, never in one's place for a moment, ever moving, ever striking as only gods could. It was in that moment that Melania knew. She wanted to be just like them when she grew up, to truly master the art of her blade. Hard in her throat, she hollered her encouragement at the top of her lungs. Win, father, win, have it thee. Radagon riposted a blow from Naruto that would have taken his left arm clean off and struck back as only a deity could, with pure force. The moonlight greatsword swept in, carving a path of azure light in its wake. It was a good strike, he thought, sweeping high at his fearsome foe's head in a blatant attempt to force a flinch. He was pleased to see that the blonde before him didn't rise to the bait. On the contrary, rather than retreat like some rank amateur, Marika's husband stood his ground. But rather than use his staff, he took the full force of the blow upon the back of his hand. Much to his chagrin, the frozen hoarfrost blade found its assault stopped cold against the knuckles of that right fist, unable to injure him. Merry blue eyes beamed back at him, gleaming gold as he looked on. Still grinning that guileless grin that made him so infamous about the capital, the Elden Lord reached around and gripped the moonlight greatsword in his hand completely. No blood was shed. It couldn't cut him. No matter how hard he strained, still his foe stood tall. "We still playing around, pal?" Yet for all that, said fiery foe only smiled at him without so much as a hint of malice. "Because if we are." He ripped the greatsword to one side, taking Radagon's balance with it, pivoted on his left heel, then drove a spinning punch into his ribs. He felt 3 fracture outright. A 4th broke not a heartbeat later. A lesser being would have retreated after taking such a hit. Reassessed. Not him. He merely gave a low grunt of acknowledgement and drove a knee into the young man's solar plexus. Rather, he tried. An armored leg blocked him, even as another stomped down on his ankle. A valiant effort, but he wouldn't be bested up so easily. "You're pretty good. And you as well." Despite his initial misgivings, he found himself returning the grin tenfold. "Might we be permitted to ... what's the word? Try." A crude turn of phrase perhaps, but yes. For once in his life he wanted to fight. Golden light sparked in his fist. Never had he wanted something so badly and never known until he received it. He did not hate this man, far from it. Nay, he thought of him as a brother, a comrade in arms, someone who could withstand his full might and emerge unscathed. Would that they could fight like this forever. "You're pretty good. For one who could cross continents in the blink of an eye, there could be no greater praise." In terms of sheer strength, Radagon was in the top 10 of those he'd faced, there could be no doubt. Even restrained, he held his ground like a champion, fighting with power and poise alike. It wasn't enough. He'd held back. They both had limited themselves to brute strength and little else. Until now. When Radagon swept in again, he dropped his restraints, parried the moonlight greatsword with one hand, brought his staff around with the other, and smote him hard in the ribs. A rare grunt of pain escaped the redhead. He doubled over. The instant he did, a knee came roaring up to crack his chin. His head snapped up, presenting him with a golden opening. Naruto took it. Chakra keened in his right hand, forming a familiar sphere. He stepped in and brought it crashing into Radagon's unprotected chest. For the first time since their duel had begun, Marika's other half cried out in pain. Then even that sound was swallowed up as the racing in drilled him backwards into a wall. The moonlight greatsword flew free, arcing end over end in the air before sheathing itself deep into the ring. Its master dropped down to one knee, wasted and gasping for air. Little Melania saw it and hollered at the top of her lungs, wild child that she was. Ranny even broke from her sullen silence to holler encouragement for her father. Naruto's heart twisted a little at that. He didn't want to embarrass Radagon per se, but the fact remained, he was just out of his league. He raised his staff and approached, prepared to deliver the knockout blow. "Nothing personal, but I think it's time we ended this." A pale hand caught his staff. Blue eyes widened. Radagon's fist hurtled up into his face. Niquella saw it all unfold in slow motion. One moment, his lord father was about to take a brutal uppercut to the chin. It would be painful, likely enough to knock him out. Anyone could see it. He heard his dear sister gasp, even as Ranny and Radon cried out in triumph. He held his tongue, dreading what was to come next. In the next, father was no longer there. He alone saw it, the second in which father let go of his staff, and stepped in. Radagon's fist met clenched knuckles instead. A shockwave flew forth as they collided. He reared back with a grimace, clutching his now broken wrist. In that moment time ceased to have any meaning. One hand clapped down on Uncle Radagon's shoulders, then father was gone, vaulting up and over the reedy head's back. His uncle moved, but too slowly. Father twisted in the air. Both hands rose high over his head, clasped together now in a single devastating arc. Then he brought them crashing down. Radagon struck the ground with an awful crack. A hand flashed out, caught Uncle by the hair, then the face, lifted him up and slam. He did not rise again. Another slam, smashing his head into the floor. Ranny groaned at the sight. Magnificent. A raspy voice murmured nearby, distracting him from the brutal attack. "Isn't he?" Niquella cast a wary look Moog's way. "He is indeed. The greatest of us." The omen turned his good eye towards him. "He'll be more than he ever was, brother." Strange words. Moog made little sense these days. You flatter me. His half-brother was still staring his way. I speak the truth. If you would but listen. Enough of this, Moog. Morgoth set his tongue, cutting him off. Let him be. The battle continues. Naquella turned back to the fray, grateful for the interruption. And trying to quell the sudden flutter of unease in his stomach. He'd often harbored suspicions about his half-brothers, quiet doubts that reared their heads in the dark of night. For all his flaws, Morgoth was genuinely a good person. Perhaps he clung to the Golden Order a touch too tightly, but he at least could be predicted. Persuaded. He enjoyed doting on Malenia and craved Mother's attention. Moog was the outlier. He'd been down in the sewers too long and had emerged changed for it. Stranger still, he'd been showing a rather irritating interest in him as of late. Surely he wouldn't do anything untoward. They were family, after all. A triumphant cry told him the battle had come to an end. The outcome was never in question. Indeed, Marika knew who would win the moment the terms of the duel were set. Likewise, she also knew who would lose. Some might call it clairvoyance, that she used her godly sight to skew the outcome in her favor. In truth, it wasn't, and she hadn't. She knew strength when she saw it, and while her brother had indeed grown stronger during his absence from the capital, so too had her consort. She knew at the moment Radagon made it back to his feet, the instant that staff hooked under his chin. Yield. Those words weren't even directed at her, and she still felt herself shiver a little when her intended spoke. He'd dealt her brother more than a few cracks in his body, fractures and fissures that were already mending, but the damage was done. The victor was clear. Even the children could see that. The only injury Radagon had managed to inflict was a single grisly cut just above Naruto's right eye. It was still bleeding, in fact. Furious. He should have healed by now. The moment stretched on, and she began to wonder if Radagon would, in fact, yield. He could be so stubborn sometimes. Gravelly laughter rumbled through the air. The other half of her soul bowed his head. Indeed, it seems I must. Tiwaz nobly fought. I surrender. Naruto's staff dissolved into motes of dark light. His hand came up. Radagon clasped it and let himself be hauled to his feet. They might have said something then, but whatever words were uttered were soon swallowed by the chaos that followed. Morgoth barked a laugh. Well, he certainly put his foolish ambitions to rest. Randy growled into her palms as Renala ran a loving hand through her hair. 'Tis not fair. He cheated. Moog sneered her way. And how so, child? T would seem your father lacked the bite to back up his bark. So sad, such a shame. Why you? Malenia was far less subdued in her father's triumph. The younger girl shot off her lap like an arrow loosed from a bow, whooped once and all but launched herself at Naruto. He saw their daughter coming, caught her by the waist, spun her around, and held her close to nuzzle her face against his. Naquella proved more sedate in his approach. For all the good it did him. The second he drew within arm's reach, his father hauled him up into their embrace, crushing him against his chest. A tiny smile played across Marika's face as he watched him coddle their children. Gods above, but her consort could be such a boy sometimes. She watched them a moment longer, considering. Radagon was consoling an irritated Renala and distraught Ranni, while young Radon sulked off to one side. Morgoth tried to say something to him, but the larger boy was quick to shake his head. Polite as ever that one, but even he had his limits. Her conscience stabbed her. Perhaps something to assuage their poor pride. An idea sprang to her mind. Yes, that would do. She sprang to her feet. A feast. Radagon quirked a battered brow at that remark. Pardon. Naruto's head whipped her way. What, now? I am queen, of course. She preened beneath their baffled stares. Do you think it odd that I would hold court? Or that I would not hold a celebration for such? You both fought nobly today. As such, he deserve a reward. Yeah, but I usually stay away from that sort of thing. Ain't really something I like to. Marika gave him a flat look and he subsided with a rueful smile. Fine, fine, just this once. Radagon chuckled. If you insist, sister. She did insist. Nursing old wounds aside, this would be a fine chance to parade her prize consort among her people. Before the defeated dragons assuming any deign to show themselves in human form, the knights and the citizens alike. Moreover, it presented the defeated party with a distraction, something to divert little Ranni's anger and likewise keep the children occupied. The more she thought about it, the more tempting the prospect became. It was just some silly. A feast, really. Nothing to worry about, right? How bad could it be? Open your eyes. Naruto scowled at his ghastly reflection. The mirror scowled right back, looking every bit as cross with his outfit as he was. He clapped a hand to his forehead and tried to remain calm. Really, he did. Gave it his best shot and everything. He failed spectacularly. I ain't wearing this. Yes, Marika's voice chimed behind him, you are. No, he pivoted to face his fellow blonde with a thunderous look, I ain't. The Eternal Queen stepped smartly to him and pressed her forehead to his. Or, ain't. The Jinchuriki folded both arms before his chest and shook his head. I'd rather wear armor. A ghost of a smile touched her full lips. You hate armor, beloved. Not as much as I hate this. He raised a golden sleeve, scowling at the hideously bright fabric sheathing his arm. I look ridiculous. Not at owl. SNRK. You look great. Honestly, Kurama's laughter didn't help. If looks could kill, his outfit would have combusted on the spot. Sadly they couldn't, not where cloth was concerned. Against his better judgment he'd let Marika choose his outfit for tonight's outing. It had seemed harmless enough at the time. He didn't think she'd be the sort to pull a prank on him now of all times. More fool he. Marika was just as much a trickster as he, the difference being she saw opportunities where he didn't. Still, he'd wanted to nope. Mistakes were made. Gold was all well and good in tiny amounts, but this much made him feel like some jumped-up ponce. There wasn't so much as a hint of orange to be seen anywhere, and he didn't much appreciate the way it left his right arm bare, likewise bearing his scars to the world. Fashion was an enigma to Naruto at the best of times, but the lands between absolutely baffled him with outfits like these. Ah, but how do I look, dear consort? He knew Marika was baiting him. He looked anyway. He'd said she looked good in black, once. Evidently she'd taken his suggestion to heart. She stood resplendent in a sheer ebony gown, a flowing garment that graced her full curves without clinging to them, accentuated her figure, yet teased at what lay beneath, and damn her, Marika knew he was looking. A light curve of her lips said it all. As he looked on, she raised both arms and performed a little twirl, sending the train of her dress flaring out around her ankles in a dark halo. He got a good, lasting look at those long legs of hers before it swept back down and his throat went dry. A coy smile touched her lips. Do you like it? I do. As do I, yours. She threw his own words back at him, relishing in her victory. We match, you and I. If I have to dress up for this farce, then so do you. Come, set a good example for our children. Naruto fed a quick glance over his back, reminded of their unwilling audience. He'd almost forgotten about the kids in their argument. Miquella hadn't yet emerged from his changing chamber, but Melania looked downright miserable in her gown. Maybe it was the bow at her back, or perhaps the tight slippers, but she clearly wasn't best pleased with them at the moment. Gold and saffron went well with her bright eyes and long red hair, not that she seemed to care. I hate this. She tugged at her tiara, a tiny crystalline thing that the servants had woven into her rose scarlet locks. The act was as much complaint as plea. Can I not wear something else? Not a chance, daughter of mine. Marika tutted with a shake of the head. You'd be running about in a tunic and long breeches if you had your way. Far from being insulted by such a remark, little Melania took it as permission and turned a powerful pout upon Naruto. Can I, Papa? Didn't his heart just kick against his chest when she said that? Oftentimes he still had trouble believing he was a father, and then moments like this smacked him upside the head. She really did remind him of a mini Kushina sometimes, in attitude alone, if not appearance. Heh, we made a cute kid, didn't we? Much to my surprise. Quiet, peanut gallery. Sorry, kiddo. On a whim he reached out to ruffle his daughter's hair. Looks like both you and I gotta bear with it for now. Melania drew back with an sullen scowl. Oh dear, he knew that look. She'd raised her chin to glare up at him, yet her had brow gone stormy, a sure sign that she was all of an instant from tearing her dress off at the knee and making a run for it. She would too, wild child that she was. She would much rather fight in the yard and practice her swordsmanship than attend essen feasts like this. Made him proud, she did. I hate you all. You're going to wake up with glue in your hair. Oh, Kushina would have adored their little tomboy. Peace, sister. Miquella emerged from his chamber and laid a hand on his sister's arm. At least their son seemed content enough in his heavy white robes. It's only for tonight. You needn't wear that gown on the morrow. You can even burn it later if you like. She shall do no such thing. Marika interjected, finishing up her own braid. And I will know if she does. Melania hissed. What are you, a snake? Her mother tittered. Do not make such a sound. Their daughter gave a little huff and stomped her foot ... but the dress stayed on. So too did her protests. Why do we have to dress up like this? We're gods, aren't we? Indeed, Marika preened. Then why do we curry favor like this? Her brow furrowed. We have the power. The golden order serves us. We should be able to wear what we want, do what we want, when we want. Naruto frowned. He'd seen that arrogance before in another, and it hadn't ended well for them. Nope, nipping that attitude right in the bud. Gods can't do as they please, he put in quickly, drawing a baffled look from the little redhead. With great power comes great responsibility. If we flaunt our powers, abuse them, use them to hurt those we're supposed to protect, that makes us no better than those we fight against. He's right. Marika slid in seamlessly before he could take action. We all have our parts to play, sweeting. She flashed him a sidelong look, some more pleasing than others. Heat speared up the back of Naruto's neck. She really did give as good as she got. Melania and Miquella made gagging noises. Oi, not in front of the kids. A quick glance confirmed his suspicions. Miquella at least seemed to understand the lesson. Miquella had his mother's patience. Melania ... did not. One look at her still sour expression left Naruto sighing. She was going to be difficult about this, wasn't she? Of course she was. She wouldn't be his daughter if she weren't. Stubbornness ran in the Uzumaki blood, much like their famed crimson hair. Would you mind waiting outside for us? Marika wagged an eyebrow at him, but saw the message therein. Very well. Come along, Miquella. I'll see to your hair in the meantime. Their son took the remark in good grace and followed his mother with a nod. Naruto waited until Marika closed the door behind them, counted to 3 for good measure, waited a little longer to make certain they actually left. Then and only then didn't he turn to face his surly child. Melania refused to look at him. Unsurprising. He'd seen her like this before. His proud, willful girl, so stubborn, so strong, so very fragile when it came to matters of the heart. All right, what's the problem? Melania glared sullenly at the ground. Nothing's wrong, father. Father, not papa. She was most certainly in a mood. He suspected he knew the reason. Still, best to be certain. He sighed and dropped down onto his haunches, bring himself eye level with her. I can't help if you don't tell me what's wrong. A blonde brow quirked upward. We're going to play the quiet game, are we? The girl rolled one shoulder in a half-hearted shrug. Melania. She flinched. Rather be training. Kurama chortled softly in his ear. She really does take after you. Bah, you're just saying that because you're her favorite uncle. I'll let you in on a little secret. He leaned in and laid a hand on her tiny shoulder. I'd rather be off training, too. Then why can't we? At last her eyes met his. Her words were a whine, a plea to understand. Why are we even here, playing dress-up for a bunch of people we barely know? I hate this. All the S and pageantry. She looked like she wanted to stomp again but thought better of it when faced with his gaze. It's so stupid. We're royalty. Gods. Everyone should come to us, bow to us. We're greater than them. Why should we waste our time on O? His words peaked into a yelp a little as he fed her forehead. What was that for? Just because we're strong, that doesn't everyone else lesser. He gave her a nudge. Each life matters, just as much as ours. She scuffed the floor with a slipper in a fit of pique. I don't understand. Mama says strength is all that matters. Time for a different tactic. Remember the time you found that baby hawk with a broken wing? Melania dared a nod. You cried and cried, because you were sure it was going to die during the night. But it didn't now, did it? Another nod, and he barreled on. You spent weeks nursing it back to health. There wasn't a day I didn't see you without that bird. You even gave it a name, remember? A third nod, barely noticeable. Artemis. I named her Artemis. So you did. He chortled a little at the memory. Tell me, did Artemis' lack of strength make her lesser? Her face flushed. No, but you still tended to something that was, by your own words, lesser than you. When he didn't respond, he nudged her further. Yet you gave that lesser bird your own blood, didn't you? She grumbled, and he knew a fourth point had been won. From that blood she grew big and strong. All thanks to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Her face flushed. I think so. And then, I want to be like you. That sudden exclamation had him leaning back. Hey, you fight monsters and save people. His daughter turned sparkling eyes on him. Everyone looks up to you. Nobody bosses you around, not even mother. Yes, victory. Not quite the way he'd intended it, but still. He wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth. Maybe this way, he could help her be a bit more humble in the future. All right. If you want to be more like me, then I'll try to teach you. On another whim, he dared to push the proverbial envelope yet further. You know, Rani and her brothers will be here tonight. You should try befriending them. That's something I'd do. Her face closed down. Don't like Rani. Mel. This time she did stomp. But she's so mean, Papa. You like Radon though, don't you? Her head whipped to the side. He's nice, I suppose. Tell you what. He leaned back on his haunches. If you behave tonight, and I mean be on your best behavior, I'll teach you a new technique tomorrow. Her eyes lit up. Shadow clones. Oh ho? Melania wanted to learn that, did she? In truth, he'd planned something more simple like wall walking ... but why not? She was much too young to learn something as destructive as the Racingen or log forbid. The racing sure I can, but he could give her a nudge in the right direction and teach her more when she grew older. And really, what harm could she cause with a few copies? ... Do you really want the answer to that question? Against my better judgment. She squealed and threw herself at him. Best papa ever. His heart did a little flip in his chest. Pure child. Must protect that smile at all costs. Laughing, he drew her close. Boy, I'm your only papa. Marika had chosen her location well. A grand gala for an equally grand, though where and how she'd constructed the building was beyond him. Carved from white stone, the exterior had all but shimmered with golden light. The interior, while it made him think of something straight out of a storybook, boasting a sweeping staircase from which they now descended, a great room stretched beyond, filled with people and tables heaped with succulent dishes. He couldn't even begin to describe it all, so he didn't even try. Well, seems Her Majesty pulled out all the stops that she had. This place hadn't existed a few days ago. Naruto knew it hadn't, if only because he knew the capital like the back of his hand. He'd had years to learn its every nook and cranny, and he could say with utter certainty this room wasn't one of them. Queen or no, Marika always been a bit of a show-off. He wouldn't put it past her to abuse her godly powers and just create the damn thing for the sake of their guests. And there were so many guests. He saw them look their way as their family crested the stairs. Nobles from far and wide, sorcerers from Celia, warriors from the Weeping Peninsula, a stray crucible knight conversing heatedly with a slender four-armed woman in white robes. Whoever she was remained a mystery to him, for a large drooping hat concealed her face. Was that Rani's mentor, Rena? Marika had made mention of her. His keen eye even caught sight of an Albinoric embassy near the back, and an old scaly misbegotten that couldn't be anyone other than old Hugh. Good. Seemed someone had managed to drag the surly curmudgeon away from his forge for a night. Sadly, he failed to see any omens among them, save Morgoth and Moog. Pity that. He'd pushed Marika for reforms and Godwin had done his best, but words only went so far in this world. Fine. They'd just have to crack a few more skulls, then. The list went on and on as his gaze raked across the rest of the dignitaries, yet he failed to find two among them. Shouldn't Renala and Radagon be here, somewhere? Marika tugged his arm, snapping him back to reality. Though they were last to arrive, the crier noticed them quickly and proved even quicker to announce their presence. Presenting Her Highness, Queen Marika the Eternal. His voice rang out, strident and clear. And her consort, the Elden Lord, Sir Naruto. Naruto almost balked at the title. Sir, doesn't that make me sound kinda old? Their twin children, the Princess Melania and the Prince Miquella. Melania huffed. Miquella, stoic as ever, waved to those below. Delighted applause swept his way. Behold your queen and her king. With a final sweeping bow, the crier made way for them. Long may they reign, came the dutiful response. Some even deigned to kneel. That's a lot of people, he whispered aside as they descended the steps. These are our subjects, dear. Marika preened under their gaze, glad for the attention. Do pay attention. Oh, she batted long lashed at him. Did I stutter? Many here know you by your deeds, my consort, but not your face. Is it any wonder you have admirers? They wish to meet their Elden Lord. He groaned a little at the reminder. Now, don't sulk. I'll be with you every step of the way. You're being unusually persuasive tonight. Do I want to know what you're after? Must I be after something each time I counsel you? She turned a light smile on him. Gods we may be, but our people are not. The golden order prevails through us. They look to us for strength. Then, more softly now, 'tis your fault, after all. Many of mine plans have changed because of you. There was something more to her words there, but he chose not to pry. Rather, he didn't want to. Marika was a clever woman, ever scheming a scheme within yet more schemes. She was selective with her secrets. Forcing her to do something she didn't want to do was akin to trying to swim upriver. Possible at a push, but difficult as all hell. She'd tell him sooner or later. Hopefully. After all, she was so very fun to tease. But he'd play along just this once. His gaze raked across the delegates again and noticed something he'd missed. That one has wings. Ah, yes, the dragons. Marika followed his gaze and hummed a little. T would seem they responded to Godwin's invitation. Dragon, he looks like a person. They can shapeshift when it suits them, dear consort. What's wrong? She waggled a brow at him. Looking to take a consort of your own. Such is fine with me. Sure enough, when he sputtered, she only continued to tease him further. Those two there would be Fortisacs and Lanseeks. Godwin is rather friendly with them, so I would suggest you search elsewhere. You're horrible, so you say. She hummed against him. Fate took pity on him and he spied a flash of red hair near the table, then several others with it. Target acquired. He'd found Rageddon and his family. Marika and Miquella still looked bored out of their minds. Perhaps they'd fare better among those near their age. Hey, there's Ranni. He gave Melania a nudge. Why don't you go say hello? His daughter gave him a long-suffering look. I don't want to. Come on, it won't be that bad. I'm sure she's mellowed out since you last saw her. She scowled and clung onto his robe like the child she still was. Can't I stay with you and Mother? Sure, if you want to be bored to death. He knew the way to her heart. We'll be talking to ambassadors, dignitaries, and diplomats all night long. But if you like boring stuff like that. It was like fing a switch. Melania all but jettisoned herself from his side and arrowed toward Ranni's table. Miquella followed. I'll look after her, father. Please do. And Miquella. His son paused. I'll have that scroll ready for you by tomorrow. A spark of interest danced in his son's eyes. I look forward to it. He watched them go with a wistful sigh. Would that it was always so easy. Marika leaned into his side, sensing his moment of regret. You're good with them. You think so? A rueful smile tugged at his lips as Melania trudged over to Ranni and her brothers. Rykard said something that had her squawking angrily. Doesn't feel like it sometimes. Don't they just look adorable? Not the word I'd use. Melania looked fit to take her plate and smack Rykard in the face. Such a wild child. Still, they're only children. He tugged her aside. Let them have their one. It's not one they'll have for much longer. Her lips curled. Speaking of children. He knew that tone. Marika, no. We talked about this. You talked. I didn't listen. She ran a hand over her flat stomach. Are you so afraid of a third child? Afraid? No. Hands full. Yes. He adored Melania and Miquella, he truly did. But to throw a third child into the mix at so tenuous a time. Even he could tell that. He lifted his chin. Don't try to bait me. Who's baiting? Not I. Melina has lovely ring to it, don't you think? She looked past him and frowned. But it seems there's work to be done. Dance with me. Well, that's a little sudden. Why do you? My lord, my lady. A woman's voice called their way. Might I have a moment of your time? He didn't miss the way Marika stiffened at being called second. Nor did he fail to notice the way she took his hand and whirled him away from said voice. He tried crane his neck back, only for her to steer him even further to the right toward the dance floor. She was up to something again, he knew she was, but for the life of him, he couldn't see what. What was that about? Nothing at all. Marika held out her hand. May I have this dance? Naruto laughed. See, you can be nice. I will bite you. Truly, his family was a strange one. In hindsight, Miquella wasn't sure when he'd realized it. Father, at least, he felt he could understand. Mother was more of an enigma, but they were often of a mind on many things. Melania he loved with all his heart, but it was clear that his sister had inherited father's wild side more than father's calm ego. And that was to say nothing of his half-brothers and sister. Aunt Renala and Uncle Radigan mystified him yet further. Even now, they welcomed Melania to their table with open arms, little spitfire though she was, and made not a fuss about it. Would that they made of sense. Honestly, he wished he could understand them all. Shaking his head softly, he continued to nurse his glass of water. What a strange evening indeed. So focused was he on the revelries that he failed to see the shadow approaching him. Until the last moment. Dearest Miquella, a low voice hissed in his ear. Please forgive my rudeness. What the devil are you, MMPH? Someone clamped a palm over his mouth and yanked him into the dark. Marika wasn't a bad dancer. Far from it, in fact. Naruto found himself pleasantly surprised by her grace, if only because he'd never seen her move like this before. She was a whirl of dark silk in his arms, a graceful blur across the room, a shining star for all to look upon with envy and awe. He saw more of the former than the latter. It didn't concern him. Her smile did. He liked to think he'd become something of an expert when it came to reading Queen Marika the Eternal. They'd spent years together and had 2 children, after all. He'd learned her many a tale since. Naturally, her smiles were among those. Most of the time he could tell when she was happy, sad, mad, or just making plain all mischief. This smile ... well, it was different. This one was her I know something you don't smile, and it promised chaos. The last time Marika had worn such a smile, she'd revealed her pregnancy with the twins. Before that, she'd dyed his clothes gold. She clearly wasn't carrying a little one at present, none that he could sense at and rate. Or preparing a prank, which meant she must be up to something else. He just had to figure out what. But that's the hard part, ain't it? Kurama heaved a sigh in his head. She's an unpredictable one. His gaze swept across the room as they danced, searching for any signs of mischief. He found none. The Albinoric embassy seemed content to chat with Radigan and Renala. The dragons were occupied by Godwin, who'd arrived late to the, and old Hugh was haranguing a rather abashed Crucible Knight. He didn't sense so much as an iota of danger or malcontent from any of them. Marika wasn't the sort to prank her guests, at that. It would be the least of their worries. Art thou worried, consort of mine? There it was. She sounded too damn smug for his liking. But of course, he couldn't say that. She'd win if he did. Nah, just thinking you're pretty good at dancing, ouch. He bit off a laugh when she stomped a slipper-clad heel down on his foot without missing so much as a beat. Okay, maybe I deserved that one. Indeed you did. She huffed as they seamlessly slid past Renala and Radigan, gliding into another waltz. You are many things, my consort, but subtle is not one of them. A blonde brow quirked. And you are. But of course, she performed a little twirl, drawing close to him while still holding his hand. Didst thou think me a brute who knows only of battle? Back she swayed, laughing now when he caught her. I am a master of all I set my mind to. He couldn't resist that low-hanging fruit. Even me. Her grin became lascivious. I got 2 children off you, didn't I? Naruto couldn't help but laugh despite himself. Hey, that was low blow. All 'tis fair in love and war. He tweaked her rear, drawing an amused noise from her, and together they finished the dance and sketched a bow for the masses as the music began to fade. Applause swelled in its place. Naruto allowed himself to bask in it, if only for a moment. Dancing wasn't a skill he'd ever thought to cultivate in his younger years, but he couldn't deny its uses now. It certainly helped him keep up with his free-spirited partner. Marika made a bemused noise suddenly, recapturing his attention once more. Finally noticed, did she? Naruto didn't have a chance to ask who that might be. Someone beat him to it. My lord, an unfamiliar voice inquired behind them. My lady. Marika's lips pursed in a thin smile. Perfect timing. I was wondering when she might seek you out. Naruto frowned. See for yourself. She planted a kiss on his cheek, gripped his right shoulder and spun him round. Warm lips brushed his ear. Do be gentle with her ... for now. I want to break her myself. A firm shove sent him stumbling forward. He cast a glare back at her for it. Where are you going? To seek out the Albinoric embassy. She hummed, sashaying away. I need to have a word with that darling Loretta girl. Now off with you. Time to face the music, then. With a long-suffering sigh he pivoted and found himself face to face with a somewhat unfamiliar face. She was a classical beauty in her white gown, short, but not quite petite. Hadn't he seen her before when they'd first arrived? Yes, he certainly remembered her blue skin and that drooping white hat of hers, not to mention other aspects of her. Kurama scoffed. Other aspects, he says. You could bounce a coin off that. Oi, sorry, not sorry. A pleasure to meet thee, second Elden Lord. 2 blue arms lifted the hem of her dress, 2 more sketched a graceful curtsy, all 4 rising in seamless unison. I had hoped for a moment of thy time. In the end, her drooping hat gave her away. You're ... Miss Rena, right? I remember you. Ran his teacher. Indeed. A smile caressed her pale face, nearly hidden beneath her hat. I'm pleased to see you know my name. How's she doing, by the way? Rena's face closed down before she forced a smile. She's lovely. You can speak freely, you know. She's not my kid. ... You shan't tell Lady Renala of this. Naruto mimed zipping his lips. Rena took a deep breath. And then, the girl is an absolute fiend. The ice witch flung up all 4 of her arms. All arms and elbows, and not at all afraid to use them when she grows bored with her lessons. Never mind the sass. Honestly, it's like trying to teach a room bear nay. A room bear has manners than she. Seemed Rani and Malinia were more alike than either cared to admit. He couldn't quite keep the smile from his face. Sounds like her. Was there something else you needed, or did you just come over here to vent? Rani's mentor came back to herself with a blink. Forgive me, I lost myself for a moment. I had hoped to beg a dance. Naruto's brow shot into his hairline. He could feel Marika's satisfaction across the room. That she pushed him into this. Please don't be distressed. I'm using you as a distraction. Rena stepped into him as the music swelled and he took two of her hands in his without thinking. The scholars of Rhea Lucaria have been hounding me for my spells all night, and I've had naught but their voices nattering in my ear for the last 3 hours. By contrast to Marika, Rena proved herself something of a slow dancer, more content to sway in place with him rather than the energetic swings and whirls of her queenly counterpart. It was a little odd dancing with a four-armed woman in that he didn't know where to put his hands. In the end he gave up and linked them behind her waist. I'm sure it's not that bad. She granted him a flat look, both eyes now. If you finish that sentence, Lady Marika shall need a third Elden Lord. Fair enough. A faint smile touched the corner of his mouth. I could send the scholars away, if you like. Her eyes flashed. And what would I have to do in return? Nothing. Rena blinked. Nothing? Yup. He smacked his lips loudly and guided her into a slow waltz. Not a thing. Thou art certainly a strange sort. She stepped closer, pressing her bosom against his chest. He caught the faint hint of a smile beneath the brim of her hat. Does this please you, my lord? It does. How else was he supposed to answer that? Still he could feel the scholars of Celia and Lucaria watching them like vultures, waiting to pounce at the slightest sign of weakness. He caught Radagon's gaze across the dance floor and jerked his head in their direction. Marika's other half nodded and made a beeline for them. The cravens scattered before him as he raised his voice, more so when he went for his sword. Serve them right. Ren hummed her appreciation. You have my thanks, second Elden Lord. A seed of confusion sprouted within him. You keep calling me that. Because you are the second Elden Lord, 'tis true. She drew him close, matching his steps perfectly. Tell me, do you know the tale of the first? Some of his confusion must have shown through, because she laughed a little, a soft, airy sound. No, I'm not surprised. It's not something the court would share with you. It is not my tale to tell. T would seem the children are watching us. He craned an eye toward the children's table. Randy and Radon were watching with Rykard, and even Morgoth had stopped feigning disinterest. Melania looked on and clapped happily. Miquella was nowhere to be seen, however, and thought, where had that boy gone? No, don't worry about it. He wouldn't be a helicopter parent. His son was no pushover and could surely fend for himself, surely. Then let's give them a show to remember. Miquella was missing. Melania noticed at first. The telltale absence of her twin was something she was not at all accustomed to. As such, she developed a sixth sense for these sort of things. She tried to ignore it at first. She really, truly did. But as 5 minutes passed into 10, then 15, followed by 30 and now an hour, her confidence began to wane. None of the adults seemed to notice. Was that a good thing? Surely her twin could look after himself. Wait, who was that giant half-wolf in armor headed their way? Her eyes widened. A smile bloomed across her pale face. She gathered up her skirts and vaulted the table. Uncle, Elden Ring, save her from bloody idiots. Marika pinched the bridge of her nose as she stalked the halls. The Albanorex had taken her questions in good grace. Young Loretta had sputtered and stammered at first, but the knight made no attempt at denying her overtures. And besides, little Laetna might well grow into a lovely beauty someday. Perhaps she and Miquella no, pleasing as that thought might be, there was business to attend and work to be done. They weren't the source of her migraine, the other nobles were. A pack of them had cornered her soon thereafter, and she, gracious host that she pretended to be, found herself forced to entertain them. Honestly, if it wasn't one thing it was the other. Slay the giants, Marika. Rule the land, Marika. Crush all opposition, Marika. Where are our riches, Marika? We want. We need. Blah. Would that she could just smash them with her hammer and be done with this farce. Honestly, she just wasn't up to it these days. All these nobles, all their vapid words of praise, their less than subtle demands, attempts to ingratiate themselves with her ... Such tripe had begun to bore her. She'd much rather be playing with her children or, if that could not be afforded to her, making sweet love to her consort. But no, she must be presentable, and a queen mother did not inspire the masses like a queen eternal. It was a worrying thought. Had she grown tired of being queen? ... And oh, she conceded after a moment's thought. She had not. She enjoyed the power of a goddess and the prestige that came with it. She'd simply grown just tired of suffering fools like these. Naruto was the one who inspired. He was he who rallied the people to their cause, he who had drawn other races and nations under their banner. He, much like Godwin, was the linchpin that held it all together. Try though she might, Marika didn't begrudge him for that. Frankly, she pitied him. She was the hammer, the stick to his carrot, the iron fist behind his velvet glove. She need only pretend at court. His was an act that would last a lifetime. My lady. A muscle jumped in her jaw. She'd not heard her approach. Whatever is it now, Electo? Her handmaiden, assassin, didn't flinch. She was Newman, after all. You have a guest waiting for you outside. Do I? No. She tutted in mild annoyance. Send them away. I'm in no mood for pleasantries. I had hoped you might make an exception for me. Marika paused. World, now. She knew that voice. Malkuth. Her face lit up as she pivoted to look up at the new arrival, even now shuffling her way. I didn't think you would come. Her shadow grunted and scratched at his chin. Against my better judgment. She rushed forward to embrace him, and for once he allowed her. Grumpy old wolf he may be, but he was her grumpy old wolf. he'd come in armor. Of course he had. Her shadow could do no less. Not for him, these formal functions. She could feel her guests staring at them now, hear their whispers, see some making excuses to leave. The court feared him, as well they should. Any who thought otherwise were fools. He could slaughter these imbeciles and spittles with ease. As befitting of her shadow, he who held destined death. Come, come, she drew back, took hold of his hand and tugged him inside. Come see your nieces and nephews. I'm sure Melania would be delighted to see her favorite uncle. If I must. She didn't miss the faint hint of longing in his voice. Such a softy. In the meantime, it was high time she went and reclaimed her consort. Rena kept Naruto on his toes. In truth, he almost found it amusing trading barbs with her. There was no need to hold back for fear of hurting her feelings, nor was she afraid to speak her mind. It reminded him of Marika, but in a rather refreshing way. They were free to vent upon another without a care in the world. Let the rumor mill spin and churn. He was rather enjoying himself. There are many here who admire you, my lord, Rena hummed into him suddenly as they spun into another waltz, but you have made enemies. Surely you realize this. Of course he did, he knew them well. Aged adherents of the Golden Order, stubborn bastards who would cling to the old ways because it brought them power and prestige, or idiots who thought themselves above those who existed outside the Golden Order. Such could not be reasoned with. He tried in the past. He might need to have another cest with the elven beast soon. A loud one, with his fists. I'm all for that. It's high time we reminded these fools of the pecking order. Damn, but that was a tempting idea. See there, Rena tilted her head just so toward the dragon contingent, where he saw. Blast, what were their names again? Marika had told him, but he'd forgotten. Fortisax and his dear sister Lansix. Rena prodded, sparing him embarrassment. The knight with them is Lord Vike, her intended, an ardent warrior. Rumor has it she's already carrying his child. Oh, why not take a look? Naruto squinted her way, noting the Lansix's long lavender robe, a garment designed to conceal her figure. Blue eyes flashed gold for a moment as he drew upon his chakra. Yes, he did sense something around her. A tiny spark of life in her belly. He squinted deeper. Oh, it was going to be a girl. Good for her. A child born of a human and a dragon would make for an interesting offspring if nothing else. Miquella and Melania might have themselves a new playmate soon. Lansix was fairly far along at that. Small wonder she wore the robe. He withdrew his senses slowly, mentally apologizing for the mild intrusion. Lansix's gaze snapped his way. Hello, think she noticed. Probably, my lord. Rena tugged him back to reality. Thanks, he muttered aside, deflecting her. I'm not good with names. If the dragon contingent hadn't been wary of him before, they were now. They watched him keenly now as they danced, with their sharp, slitted eyes. They're not terribly fond of you. He could sense that much. He wasn't so much dislike as general wariness. They regarded him as one might a fellow predator, uncertain whether he was a rival to be feared or prey to be consumed. At least they didn't hide behind honeyed words and veiled smiled like the rest. He'd take what he could get in this confusing court. Why would they dislike me? Recent efforts aside, 'tis a simple, if confounding matter. Rena stifled a sigh behind one of her many hands. Their loyalty is to Godwin. You are not him. No doubt they wish him to pit his strength against yours. Godwin wouldn't do that, he knew. Marika's boy was never the sort to pick a fight he couldn't win. Could he? He knew for a fact that Godwin was far and above Radagon. Something to consider, then. But he had no real reason to quarrel with Marika's eldest, and he wouldn't let himself be pushed into such. He's got a good head on his shoulders. One better suited to negotiation than battle, but that was neither here nor there. Don't try to pit me against him. It won't end well for you. That is not mine intent. Not a lie. Her words were true. I wish to keep you informed of dangers to your rule, that is all. And how do you benefit from this? And now he asks the all-important question. Her smile turned sly as the music slowly trickled away. Your reign is founded on understanding, not mere strength. You seek to push the boundaries of that which is both known and unknown. A faint note of longing slipped into her words. One hand came up to hold his left shoulder. I can go far in such a word. I would not see it, and what you represent, come to an untimely end. Pragmatism, then, he said. She laughed. Did you expect anything less? Bold of you to say such, which? The reply hadn't come from him, but the hand now perched upon Rena's shoulder. You dare to trespass upon that which is mine. I like it. Mind if I steal him back? But of course. Rena sketched a deep curtsy. Her eyes met his. Until next time, my lord. By the way she said that, he had the feeling next time might come sooner than he wished. She turned and left them as they were. The moment she was gone, Naruto rounded on Marika. You set that up. Lady Rena and I are allies of convenience at present. She watched the Snow Witch retreat to the children's table to harass poor Rani. You should feel honored. She seldom speaks to anyone unless she deems them worthy. Her standards are exacting. Can we trust her? The queen shrugged. She will serve her own self-interests above all ... and those happen to align with ours at present. His brow furrowed and he waved a passing server down, snagging a pair of goblets for them both. Is that a no? It's a maybe. Marika sipped languidly at her wine. I have plans for her. She shall serve in her own way, be it in court ... or our bed. Naruto nearly choked on his own drink. Do you want a threesome that badly? 4 hands, my dear consort. She grinned at him. 4. Does the prospect not excite you? A pale hand traced his bicep. Doesn't it make you? Curious. In a morbid way perhaps, but no. He pushed it aside. Maybe. She pounced. Just think what your children would be like. Huh, they'd look pretty nice actually. Oi, stop getting baby happy, the both of you. And don't give me that look, Marika. As you wish. She took the loss for what it was and tugged at his arm, leading him aside. You needn't better now. Will be much to do in the coming years. Already planning ahead, are we? But of course, she scoffed. I have not kept my throne this long by being an idle ruler. A blonde brow rose. The omens and others races might have something to say about that, Marika. Yes, well, here at last a pretty pink flush graced her face. That is mine sin to bear. But you, she surprised him, stepping in to kiss him fiercely and tweak his hindquarters in revenge besides. You have changed things, my dear consort Eterenal. There's no going back now. There was again the faint suspicion that she was keeping some secret or other from him. It shouldn't bother him. It was simply her way. And yet, earlier, Rena called me the second Elden Lord. He pulled her closer. What happened to the first? Marika went still in his arms. Too clever by half, that girl. Marika, I made an error. She spoke haltingly, uncertain of her words for the first time in a long while. You're right. There was another lord before him. His name was Godfrey, your predecessor. I loved him for a time. Godwin, Morgott and Moog, they are his sons. He'd always wondered about that. We had a plan, he and I, Marika continued to pace, a grand scheme that saw him hounded from the capital. A plan that has long since changed. I sent him and his away so that they could wage war in foreign lands and grow strong through hardship and death. One day they shall return to fulfill the promise I set them. I have sent missives to him in the Badlands. He is a man of honor. It is my belief that he will understand. And if he doesn't, her eyes flashed. Then you shall see firsthand my skill with this hammer. An army, he realized. She's building an army. But for what? To usurp the greater will. Why not just say so? Unless she couldn't. Was it watching them even now? He'd gone into the Ur-tree and had words with it before, thought the matter of conquest settled. But if Marika was actively building up her forces to rebel against the bloody thing ... he didn't know how he felt about that. I've upset you, Marika tutted, seeing his pensive expression. Let us shelve this conversation for another time. Perhaps you should check in on the children in the meantime. He craned his neck back. From here he could see an armored wolf Malekith, fussing over a starstruck Malenia and the other children while a bemused Morgott looked on, but where was Miquella? Cold dread seized his heart. No one held any answers for him. He couldn't sense him, as if he'd simply vanished. I thought he was with you. Marika's frown mirrored his own and in it, he caught a glimmer of concern. He isn't. And then all at once he could sense him again, a burning brand blazing in the back of his mind. Naruto flung his goblet aside and took off in a tear of gold, blasting down the hall. Servants scurried out the way. Doors whistled by. He found the right one in an instant and flung it open, took the room in at a glance. This one was one of those empty chambers they kept on hand for guests, all gleaming upholstery and a grand bed besides. And there, seated at the foot of it, engaged in a lively debate with Moog of all people. Miquella. Oh, hello, father. His son offered a genteel smile. I'm sorry, did we worry you? If so, I apologize. Moog stood and sketched a hasty boy. We were just discussing the matter of. Naruto didn't give him the chance to finish. 3 swift steps carried him forward, brought Moog well within arm's reach. An open palm swung out, snatched the omen up by his collar, and slammed him against the wall. A pained yelp filled the air. He ignored it, all but dragging him upright. I couldn't sense you. Either of you. What did you do? That was my doing. Miquella confessed. Moog spirited me away and wished for us to have some privacy. I suggested a concealing spell. It did nothing to quell the panicked rage bleeding in Naruto's head. Something was wrong here or had been, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Neither of them were lying. Moreover, Moog wasn't making any attempt to extricate himself from his grasp. If anything, the omen looked terrified. As well he should be. ... Take him like that again and I'll have your head. Moog nodded eagerly. Too much so. Yes, of course, I am your loyal servant. Naruto dropped him. Moog. The omen winced. Yes, lord. He all but jerked his head to the side. Get. Moog got. Naruto let him rush past, quelled the urge to snuff out his life, and counted to 10, slowly. Only then did he dare speak again. We're leaving. Miquella hopped off the bed and followed with a patient sigh. You can't kill him, father. Naruto thumped a wall with his fist as they walked. The pain helped center him. Can't I? He's given me good reason. Oh. You can, Miquella allowed with a shake of the head, acting so much like his mother that he found himself given pause, if only for a moment, but you shouldn't. Annoying as he may be, killing him will paint you as a brute and will weaken your position. He commands a sizable faction at court, none of whom I saw tonight. He could feel his anger cooling, but he refused to let go of it. Of course you didn't. Was that a hint of anger in his son's voice, or had he imagined it? Unlike the dragons, the followers of the formless mother are not yet welcome under the Ur-tree's grace due their practices. The same could be said of those who follow the gloam-eyed queen. There is also the mat of the omens and the sirens. Naruto knew a distraction when he heard one. It doesn't change the fact that he took you. Moog did kidnap me, yes, but his intent was to talk. Placid eyes met his, serene as a calm ocean. Nothing more. He's an awkward sort and likely couldn't think of any other way to get my attention. If he did have any untoward intentions toward me, I would have rebuffed him. HMMPH. It seemed a flimsy excuse, but his son wasn't lying. Miquella truly did believe he was telling the truth. Morgoth doesn't have these problems. Morgoth is loyal to Mother, and by definition, the Golden Order. Leave it to his son to be the voice of reason. What did Moog want with you, anyway? Well, here at last, his son's face became pensive. He asked me about you. This was even worse than he'd thought. Naruto nearly missed a step and walked into a wall. Excuse me, you. Miquella continued to pace, navigating the corridors with ease. He wanted to know of your origins, where you hailed from, what you liked, what your dislikes were. Naruto felt his brow furrow. Why, I do not know for certain. His son shrugged. I believe he wishes to impress you. Why in blazes would Moog of all people be asking after him? He's done the opposite of that tonight. A fact I shall be sure to tell him. Miquella hesitated, dithered a moment now, much to his chagrin. I do not think he means any harm. Who can say? Nevertheless, I shall remain on my guard. It wasn't enough for Naruto, not by half. We'll step up your training. Nalinia would have bolted by now. Miquella at least had the good grace to blanch. Father, no. Father, yes. He gave him a light shake. You need to be able to defend yourself. That silver tongue of yours won't save you every time. This was his home now. No one would harm his loved ones. If they did, they'd learn to fear the fox. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification. So when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.